All right, let's take a look at an introduction to 3D. I started a brand new drawing and I went up to File here and saved it as the assignment number, Introduction to 3D. Um, so now let's get started with this, with learning the transition from 2D to 3D. So one of the first things that you notice here is I'm going to turn off this grid to make it easier for you to see down here at the bottom next to model. I'll just click on this icon here and turn that off. At the top left corner, you'll see that it says top and then it says 2D wireframe. And then over here, you have this view cube that says top. So if on the top left corner, you click right on the word top, you have all these different views that you can get to. Right now, we're looking down on Z, and you can see the UCS icon right there, user coordinate system icon right there. Z is coming at you. So go ahead and click it, pick SE isometric for Southeast isometric, and you'll see that the view cube changes to the southeast isometric view. So, and your UCS icon kind of comes out of the corner and rotates. So now you can kind of see that Z is up. Now, if you want to use these, words in this menu, that's great. But over here on the view cube, you can click right on the word top right there, and it'll go back to this 2D wireframe top view. So you could use the view cube here. There are a lot of different things you can do with this, but right now, if you click on the bottom right corner, you'll see that the corner of that box turns blue. It'll bring you back to the southeast isometric view. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is that if you want to work in 2D wireframe, it's best for 2D, right? Because you're going to be looking like through your object. It's more like a wireframe. So click on 2D wireframe and go to conceptual. And you'll see that the UCS icon turns different colors. You kind of know that you're in 3D. But the ribbon is in 2D. So at the bottom right corner, look for this gear icon here and click on the arrow next to it. You're going to change the workspace. And these can actually be set up if you have several people that work on the same computer and you come back and yours is different. You could save the way that it's customized, save it the way the screen looks. But in this case, we're using the drafting and notation for the 2D. So let's go ahead and click on 3D modeling. 3D modeling, if you give it a minute, you'll see that the whole ribbon changes, and make sure you're in the home tab, and now you've changed your view and now you're in the 3D ribbon. But notice that there's still 2D functions, so you don't have to always go back to drafting and annotation. So we have draw and modify, and we even have layers down here. So let's start with these primitive presets of shapes that we can draw. We can click on box, and then watching your command line, you can click a first corner, pull your mouse over and click another corner, and then pull your mouse up and click for the height. So we're just clicking, but if you watch your command line, which is something we really need to do, we would be able to enter some of that information. Same thing with the cylinder. With the cylinder, you can pick a point, pull your mouse out and click for the radius, pull your mouse up for the height. A cone is very similar, the center point, the radius, and the height. A sphere is the center point and the radius. So you have all these different things. A pyramid is a center point and a base radius, and then kind of the height. Wedge, I've used a wedge once in a while. You're creating a first corner and a second corner, and then you're pulling your mouse up for that wedge height. And then a torus is really a center point and a radius of the torus, and then a radius of kind of like that tube right here. So there are 3 points to click for that one. So these are all presets that you can draw and kind of start to shape if you'd like. Another way of creating 3D solids is to turn 2D geometry into 3D. So take a look at what happens when you start the circle command, just a regular circle that's in the draw panel right there, and you go out in space here and you click. And I clicked on circle center radius, and now I'm clicking at center point. I'm pulling my mouse and clicking another point. Notice here that by default, it's going to draw that circle on this kind of X, Y plane right there. And if you hold your shift key and the wheel of your mouse at the same time, and you move your mouse, you can orbit kind of around to see that circle is right on that flat surface, that XY kind of plane. Okay, now if you don't have a wheel of your mouse, you can always come over here to the navigation bar, and we have this full navigation wheel. That's one choice, which also has orbit. In this case, let's say you don't have a wheel in your mouse or you're using a laptop, you can hold the left mouse button down on orbit, and that does the same thing. And so if you close out of this wheel, there are other commands there. You can also rest or hold your pointer down on this kind of bottom part of the view cube. I don't normally use this because I have a mouse with the wheel in it, and it's kind of a good investment, especially for 3D. All right, so we drew that circle there on the flat surface, but now let's say that's 2D geometry, and you have to have a closed shape in order to use one of my favorite commands called press pull. Right here in the modeling panel, click on press pull, and then go inside the circle. Don't click on the rim of it. You want to click right inside the circle. And what it does is it kind of closes or finds the boundary, and then you can pull your mouse up and click. And then right click and enter, or right click. Okay, so let's see what happens when you draw a regular 2D circle on one of the surfaces. So now you go up to the draw panel again and click on circle center radius, but this time go to the top of your box there and see that the surface is highlighted. And it looks like temporarily you can see the UCS icon kind of temporarily rotates with the XY on it. And now click and pull your mouse out. You see what you're doing is you're drawing the circle on top of the box. So try it again. Start the circle command, and this time go to the front face here until it's blue, click a point, pull your mouse out and click. So any one of these surfaces, I could draw a circle on the wedge face right here, and as long as it's highlighted, except for a cylinder. A cylinder, we could draw it on the top, but because of the curved shape right here, it won't read like a surface, right? Okay, so what I really like press pull for now is to be able to start the press pull command, go inside this circle that's like on top of the box, right inside of it, not on the edge of it, inside of it, and click. And so when you pull your mouse away from other solids, you're creating another solid, and it will automatically union with that original solid. But if I pull my mouse all the way down, and right through the whole part that I'm working with, and I click, it creates a hole. So it subtracts out the solid, and it like cuts away at it. So if I'm still in it here, I could go inside this circle in the front and click and pull my mouse all the way back and then left click. And so now what I did was I created two holes by drawing 2D geometry on the solid shape and then using press pull to kind of take it out. So let's do that again. But this time we're going to draw a line that's on this other surface from midpoint to midpoint. Now, guys, the assignment that you hand in is this one, and it's really a collection of showing me that you were working with it. And we're going to develop something in this exact file that is more of a 2D turned into a 3D. So if you wanted to draw the circle on something else and subtract it, that's okay too. All right, let's make sure that though the object snap midpoint is on. So we could draw a line from midpoint to midpoint. So here at the bottom right, click on the arrow next to Object Snap and just make sure the midpoint is checked. Mine is, so I'm good. So now I'm going to go over to the line command. It's in the draw panel, just regular line. And then making sure that this face of the box is highlighted first, I'm going to go ahead and click on the midpoint of the top line and the midpoint of this side edge right here. And then enter. And now if I use press pull, go ahead and use press pull to go inside that little triangle, right inside of it, and click. I can pull my mouse back and all the way back and click and know that I've kind of sliced that piece off. You can go ahead and press enter. Now the thing with press pull is that the 2D geometry remains. So that's pretty good because there are a few other commands like extrude and sweep where it takes the 2D geometry with it and kind of deletes it while you create it. So there are times when we want to get in there and delete or erase out this 2D geometry. The only reason for me to delete it sometimes is when I'm trying to work with sculpting and doing something with a solid, but I'm accidentally hitting or clicking on the 2D geometry. Sometimes the 2D geometry gets kind of in the way. All right, so press pull is awesome, right? Because now I can even press pull. Go ahead and click on press pull right here. If you drew a circle on your cylinder down a specific height, so you're kind of like making like an indent in your project. So let's go ahead and draw another box. We'll draw here in this drop down at the top left a box. And then also I want to draw a cylinder that's inside the box, or at least on the edge of it. So I drew a box and I'm going to go back to cylinder. I'm going to click right on the corner of the front corner for the center point. Pull your mouse out and click, and then pull your mouse up, and it's really okay. Sometimes you have to pull your mouse out into the space before you click because see all those object snaps that are going to pull you in place. It's up to you. If you wanted to go midpoint, you could click on this back corner. But here you can go as high as you want. Here I'm going to show you how to subtract the cylinder from the box. So we have these commands here in the solid editing panel. One is union, where you could take both of them together and create them as one object because right now they're separate. And then the one we're going to use is subtract, where we're going to subtract the cylinder from the box. And then we also have intersection, which is kind of interesting because you could create two different like profiles and extrude those, extrude or press pull, those two commands work. And then the intersection is the intersection of those two profiles. So that's another option. So let's go ahead and pick the solid subtract. And we want to subtract or select the box first. And if you're wondering what to select first because your command line doesn't show you, press F2. F2 is a function key. It'll kind of show you more of the command line. And sometimes there's helpful information back there. Like in this case, it says subtract, like select the solid to subtract from. So that's how I knew the box. So I'm going to press F2 again, and I'm going to select this box. And now because I'm done selecting, my command line still says select objects. I'm going to go ahead and enter. And then it says to select the solid to subtract, and that would be the cylinder. So I'll select the cylinder and then enter. So I'll do that one more time. I'm going to go ahead and do an undo. So I'm going to click on subtract. I'll select the box and enter, and then I'll select the cylinder and enter. And just kind of like takes it away from there. Okay, another helpful command that we like to use, and I seem to use all the time, is called 3D rotate. Because when you bring in a 2D project, maybe when we talked about blocks, you can insert one project into another. So we're going to insert one of our previous projects into this project. So let's go ahead and click on 3D rotate and then select this box and enter. And then watch your command line. You're actually picking a base point, the base point of rotation. So you have to click the corner, one of these corners. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to click down here at the bottom. And then the rings, all these rings go to that corner. We want to click on the ring that becomes the axis that we want to rotate around. So it says pick the rotation axis. So I'm going to put my pointer on the red ring and see the red line there and click. And then it says in your command line to type an angle. I'll go ahead and type in 90 and enter. You see how I rotated it 90 degrees. Now, what if you want to rotate it dynamically because you want to connect it to something else? Let's do it again. And this time we're going to go through all of what we need to, and then at the end, instead of typing in 90, we're going to click points, right? So anytime that your command line asks you to establish points, you can type in information or you can click. So here, let's go to 3D rotate, select the box and enter it, pick a base point, the bottom corner, click on the ring again, the red ring, and then this time pull your mouse straight up and click for like the starting angle. And then move your mouse here back and forth and see that you're kind of dynamically able to rotate it to something. So you have a corner or something you want to rotate it to. This is a really helpful way of rotating your solids into place. So at this point, it also gives you the option of typing in an angle. So if I wanted to rotate it somewhere down here, I could just click and then I know that I have that rotated. We can also select a cylinder or an object and see all these blue grips. If you've already modified the object, you won't have as many blue grips because modification kind of threw the grips out. So if you need to draw another cylinder or another box, go ahead and do that and then select it and notice that you have these little blue triangles on the bottom that you can click in and change the radius of something that you've already drawn. You may have to get up here pretty close to get that top triangle to grip to make the height a little bit taller. But we also have this blue, green, and red axis when you select an object. So if I click on the blue arrow, not the grip, but the arrow where you see the blue line, and you move your mouse up and click, you know that you're kind of moving an object in the Z direction, right? So if I click on this red arrow and I pull my mouse over, I'm moving it along that X axis. And the crazy thing I wanted to show you is that if you have one object selected and you orbit, so you hold your shift key and the wheel of the mouse, everything else temporarily disappears. But if you let go, you get your objects back. So use your escape key to get rid of those grips and then hold your shift key and the wheel of the mouse and kind of orbit around. And you see how that cylinder was moved up in the Z direction because we use those arrows to do that. Okay, so those are some of the main commands. We do have other assignments that we're working on where we're going to come in for a deeper dive to look at loft, revolve, and sweep. But for now, let's work on an assignment, an introduction to 3D, where I'll be able to see that you did, you worked on all of this. Also, we're going to insert one of the drawings that we did previously. And it doesn't really matter to me which one it is. We're going to insert it and then we're going to use press pull to create it into a 3D. And then I'm going to introduce to you also in this video how to use the layouts at the bottom left corner. And we'll move forward using those layouts for our 3D projects until we look at another way of doing that. So If we go over to the Insert tab and we look at that first panel block, there's your insert, the very first icon. Click on the arrow here underneath Insert, and then pick Blocks from Library. You should get this new palette that basically might show you all the, yours is going to be different than mine. These are all blocks that are in the project that I was using for a different class. And so what we want to do is to be able to go get our own. There is an icon right there at the end of this drop down, or you can click on the arrow and go down to the bottom and click on Browse Block Libraries. Either way, it's the same icon. See that kind of sheets of paper stacked with a folder? Go ahead and click on that icon right there. And it should bring you to the drawings that you've created, or you may have to navigate where it says look in to go find those files. Honestly, I don't really care which one that you use. You use your own, whatever project that you were working on. If you do use the metric one that we did, it's going to be really large in this drawing, and you'll just have to zoom up to it by double clicking on the wheel of your mouse. But if you use one of these smaller ones, like there's the assignment 4 was really big. It's going to be off on the paper somewhere. So I guess I'll go ahead and use assignment 2, 1 or 2 or 3, some of those smaller ones. Double click on it and wait for a minute for it to load. It'll load in this panel here on your palette. This is a new palette. But it's there. There it is. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down on it and drag it out into my drawing. Like, see, I don't even see it. I can't see it. So I'm just going to go let go and then double click on the wheel of my mouse. It's way over here somewhere. See that? The insertion point, as we said when we talked about blocks, is 0, 0. So we were looking over here, and it came in. You came in at a distance away from the 0, 0. When you drag this drawing out and you let go, you want to make sure that you double click on the wheel of your mouse so that you can zoom extents to where you wanted it to be placed. All right, or where it was placed. So here's another way. I know we looked at this last week, but I just wanted to as a review. If you just rest your pointer on this icon and right click and pick Insert, you'll have more control over clicking for your insertion point. So you could do that as well. If you want to bring in 2 different ones, I'm just asking for one. So what we're doing here is we're going to get close to that. I'm just going to take this one out, actually. Get close to that 2D object. You could orbit around to kind of put it into an isometric view, or even just go right back over to where we got top and click Southeast Isometric right there. That'd be better. And now you're in the Southeast Isometric view. I can close out of this insertion dialog box, this blocks dialog palette, to get it out of the way there. And now go back to the Home tab and use Press Pull. Now, because this is a block, it might kind of show you a little bit of image, flicking around. I'm going to go ahead and click inside a closed shape, pull your mouse up and click right there. So you go ahead and design or create, whatever you want with this. I'm just creating here different pieces. I'm clicking out in space so that I don't have a whole lot of the object snaps, pulling me in different directions. And then once you do that, you have your frame, your 3D solid model that you created. You can use Union if you want to practice that a little bit. You see how these lines are all separated? If I click on these 3, 1, 2, 3, and enter, I've got these union together. You don't have to union those though. And then when you're done, you can leave the block in there, or you can delete it. I'll just leave it in there. Okay, so what I'd like to show you now is a transition and a real introduction to using layouts. And layouts are great for us because we can print more than one view. And so we're just going to print one view for this assignment so that I can introduce it to you. The idea, though, is that let's go ahead. Go ahead and click on Layout 1. And now there's already a viewport. It's called a viewport that is kind of like a hole in the paper. So this is a sheet of paper with the margins, this dash line, and this is the hole. If I double click inside that viewport hole, I can pan and zoom over to whatever I want to print. So this is where you could have several of these holes, these viewports in your paper, and you can print, the top view, the side view, or several different views. There are a lot of different ways that you can use this. You can even scale this this viewport here. So this is what we're printing. You kind of like center it in there. You can even orbit because you're inside the hole, or you're inside model space looking through this hole. So now double click out in the space. Double click way out here. And notice now you're in the paper space, and it actually says paper at the bottom there. And you have that little triangle icon at the bottom left. And so what you could do is you could just click once on this viewport right here and use grips. See that? You can use grips to like crop out or make bigger this viewport. There it is. Now this viewport is going to print. So what we try to do is we try to put it on a new layer, its own layer. So use your escape key to get rid of that there. Let's go ahead and click in layer properties. It's at the top left. And you'll see all the layers that you created when you brought that block in. They're automatically, created. Remember the def points layer, it was for the dimensions. Like some people will use the def points layer because it doesn't print to put their viewports on it, but many companies are creating a new layer, and there are some benefits to that. Let's go ahead and click on new layer, and we'll call it viewport. You'll see Vport or viewport, and the idea behind this layer is that we're creating it for that box so that now we can use this no plot function. So where the viewport layer that we just created, we're going to make sure that we click on the printer and make it a no plot layer because we don't want that box to print. And I would suggest making it a different color. Make it a completely different color that you would never think of, purple, brown, whatever it is, so that when you see it on the screen, you know that it's your viewport layer. And then you've already created it. So let's go ahead and close out of this dialog box. And now we can click once on this viewport box and go over to the layer dropdown, on the layer dropdown over there in the layer panel, and click right on viewport. We want to make sure that the box is on the viewport layer so that it won't print. If you escape out of that, you'll see that we didn't make the viewport layer current. Now there are other times when we're drawing the viewport, we're going to make it current, and you just got to make sure that you switch it before you start putting your text, right? And in fact, since we already have dim text layer, you can use layer 0 if you want, but I'm just going to go ahead and, no, I'm going to use layer 0. Let's use layer 0 because it's black. It's black. When we print these, even if we use monochrome in this kind of like conceptual view, we do see that it overrides the monochrome CTP file. So just use layer 0 for now. Let's go to the annotate tab, and in the annotate tab, we're going to click on multi-line text, that first icon right there. We can it's up to you where you want to put your title, right? Because you can put it up here, you can put it down here. I guess I'll go ahead and keep it down here. You got to watch your like object stamps too. So click a point, pull your mouse over, put your cap locks on, and let's call this whatever the assignment number is, and then your name underneath there. Highlight assignment on the assignment number and underline it as we have been for most of the assignments. Now, because this won't print, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's right on top of the text or underneath it, because this is a box that you can select and just hold your left mouse button down and like drag around, right? So you're kind of able to now hold your left mouse button down and kind of you know, move it around in the drawing until you get what you want. All right, that is our assignment. I'm going to need to, you know, see that you've done something here, and then also I'm going to be looking in here to see that, you know, you had some practice with creating these shapes. This is an introduction to 3D, but I wanted to at least create here an assignment. Introduction to 3D and an introduction to using layouts. From this time forward, we're going to go ahead and stay in the 3D world and space and start to look at other commands and other ways of creating a 3D drawing. Now, guys, let's finish this with the print, right? So let's go ahead and click on the printer icon. Hey, because we are in the layout space, we don't have to change any of this. We don't have to change the paper size, what to plot. We don't have to center it. It's already one-to-one. So the only thing we need to change is what, you know, where we want to print it. So we'll pick AutoCAD PDF high quality print PC3. And then let's go ahead and click on monochrome CTV. Notice it didn't ask you if you want to name all the other layouts because you're in the layout. You're in the layout. So you want to apply it to the layout and then pick preview. Now, if you're in the preview mode, it's going to look a little blurry, but it won't print blurry. The view of it in this print preview is blurry. But what I wanted to say is that if you see your viewport box right there, don't print it. Don't hand it in, right? You want to make sure that that viewport box is on a layer that won't print. So create that viewport layer, make it a no plot layer, and make sure that that box is on that layer. The other thing that happens sometimes is students will not switch their layer around, right? And the assignment name will be still on the viewport layer. So if you don't see that, it could be there. So now anytime that you know that something's there, but it's not, you could go under layer properties and see if that layer is the no plot layer. So I'll go ahead and right click and pick plot and then put it in the folder that you're working with to keep it, you know, in that folder. You can go ahead and pick save. And there's your PDF. All right, so you guys have been doing a great job submitting your DWGs and your PDFs. I think you're really moving forward with developing your portfolios with all of these different assignments. A lot of the 3D will give us practice with the 2D because we'll draw something in 2D and then turn it into 3D and then pick up, you know, additional commands. So guys, have a great week. Let me know if you need any help. If you're a little behind, let's get caught up so that we can move forward and not have a lot to do at the end. All right, great, guys. Take care.